NIT Trichy, and I graduated last year, 2020 batch, and I got an admit for my doctoral degree in mechanical engineering, and I'll be going in probably, in 2-3 weeks, I'll be going to Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. So yeah, I got the admit last year, but I deferred it by a year because of the pandemic.
Yeah. Okay. So Shweta, one question I have for you is, how did you prepare yourself for study abroad? Like, what point in time you thought, like, I have to go out and study abroad, and how did you prepare for that? And most importantly, how were you able to get admission to CMU, which is like one of the best universities?
So it was during my second year actually. So initially itself, I had decided that I would pursue my higher studies because I didn't want to, start with a job immediately. I wanted to complete all my studies and then, maybe start doing a job. So I wanted to I like the field of research. And so probably I kind of envisioned myself in the R&D department, doing some kind of research in a lab. So for that, I knew I would have to pursue a degree beyond BTech as well. So I had that in mind always. And so the first internship I did was in my college itself, NIT Trichy, and I even got a paper out of it. So after that experience, it kind of further strengthened my resolve that, I wanted to go for research in future. So that's when I decided. And I did try a few, there was this IIT Bombay and Monash University PhD opportunity in India as well. Mm-hmm. I did try for that also, but I did not make it through after the last round. So yeah, so that was there. And for abroad, preparation is just the main thing I feel is you should have a very nice background as far as research is concerned. So that's the main thing they look at, and the GPA definitely. And I do believe the name of your undergraduate college also does play a role. So basically maintain your GPA throughout and have a nice research background. That's one thing I would say. Have a good relationship with your profs. Do research as, try to get a paper if possible, though that's not compulsory, but that's something I would definitely recommend.
Okay, just one second. Hey, Ankita, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing good.
Good. I'm just started talking to Shweta. I'm going to catch up with you quickly. Mm-hmm. Ankita, do you mind if you can introduce yourself, your background, and where you're from, and which school you're going to?
So I just graduated in May, actually. I was doing my master's in biomedical engineering at Carnegie Mellon University. And so I did it from 2019 to 2021 May, and I graduated. Currently, I'm working in Stryker as a software engineer. Mm-hmm. So that is fairly my background. If you want me to talk a little more about my research, I can do that.
Sure. But tell me where you came from or from anywhere.
So, so I am from Kolkata, India, and I did my undergrad in electronics and instrumentation engineering. And when I was doing that, I kind of got a little interested in signal processing, imaging, and things like that. So I realized what is the way that I kind of want to, signal processing is a field that you can work in different kind of fields. So I decided that when I was in high school, I had a thing for biology. So that is what I wanted to grow in. So I did a couple of projects in my undergrad, and when I was sure at a point that this is what I wanted to do, so I went ahead and applied for grad school. And that is why I wanted to go into biomedical engineering. And then I got accepted into a couple of schools. And Carnegie Mellon was the one I connected with the most, because I actually initially reached out to a couple of professors and see what research they do. And that one was the best fit for me. So that is why I chose to go to CMU. And I've had a wonderful 2 years over there. And yeah, so that's
cool. Okay, I got it. So Shweta, coming back to you. So if, let's say, I am a I'm a first year student, and one thing, so my journey was to US was 10 years back, 15 years back almost. So I think things have changed by now, but we used to do a lot of research. I went to IC Bangalore, did my internship, and all that thing that people do. But I realized that when I was applying for schools, one of the things that if I have to categorize, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, what's the situation now, is I thought you should have a really good GPA, you should have really good score. Then comes your research, or maybe recommendations, and then comes your research. Or you think that's like if you get a not a good score, but you have done really good research, that helps? Or GPA, if you, because I have students who said our GPA is not so great. So my feeling is they don't, and if you're applying for grad school, GPA is like pretty important.
Yeah, so I do believe that GPA is important and followed by research. Regarding scores, I actually feel it's a misconception. Even those in my batch, and even I had that misconception for a while, that you need really nice scores. But I've seen people with really nice profiles who do not have that good maybe GRE or TOEFL scores. They too get accepted to really nice colleges. So I feel it's just like a filtering criteria where you just need to get a decent score. Like GRE is generally considered about 320, it's considered a good score. So if you just get a good score, like you pass that kind of filtering criteria, then you're good to go. You don't need to like focus on a 340 on 340 or a perfect score that way. So GPA does matter to a great deal, yes, but more than that, I feel the most important thing is research. If you can show that you have the capability to do research, maybe if you have published papers, you have that acumen to because it's actually a very tiring process, research, reading papers and coming up with a solution to some problem, because it's not something new. People have done it before you, they'll do after you. So you need to have some quality in you which makes you a good fit for a researcher. So I think the most important thing I would categorize is both your research experience and your GPA, followed by, yes, very good recommendations. And the score I would consider just like a filtering criteria where you just need to cross a certain barrier, a certain score. That's all. You'd be able to make it after that.
Okay. And how about the process of convincing a professor? How was that worked out for you? Because the way I did it in my days was I contacted a professor directly. There are two ways, you apply to a grad school and hope you will get accepted, and hope some professor will like it and he or she will give you money, especially if you're going for a PhD program, and you will get an admit. The other way is you shape on your own. That means like you massage the professor before on, you know what I mean? The way I did it was the later one. I massaged my professor well. So talk about that process then.
Yeah, so when I reached out to a few of my seniors for advice, it's the same thing they said, that you should, try talking to professors much before you, apply to the grad school, convince someone to take you in. I did that, but I did not get success there, as in there weren't many who, actually most of them didn't even reply. And a few who replied, they weren't very positive, but they just said that, I could try applying and then they'll go through my profile. If they like it, they'll accept me. But the two professors who replied, I did not get an admit from those two schools anyways. So that didn't work out for me, mailing them prior to the application. But once I got the application accepted, then once I started mailing profs of the schools from which I got an admit, they replied. And that's how I actually managed to get funding in a few cases. So that's what worked for me. Yeah.
So Ankita, for you, how would that process work? What the difficulty did you face in current times when you came to US or came to Pittsburgh for that matter? What are the do's and don'ts that you will advise to students when they come?
Yeah, a couple of things.
Especially if there is something pertaining to female students. I mean, I don't know, I don't want to sound as sexist, but there might be, I don't know. So if you feel that there are some particular problems faced by a student in general, and if by a female student, or what type of preparation that you should do. And most importantly, my question to you would be is, especially for masters, I would say 99% or more probably student that you come, they have their own loan in their head, right? So the pressure of that loan, and then, masters goes like this, to be honest, right, in a blink of an eye. So, and to cope of the pressure of not having a job, and then you're applying the frustration part of it. I'm glad you overcome that. But I mean, I have faced that when I graduated. So just talk about that process whole, and how, if you look back now, how would you deal it in a much better way? Put it this way: would you suggest somebody that to have a loan? I mean, especially in COVID scenario, one of the things I have seen with the students is, I know a lot of students, quite a few that I spoke to, that they went back with a bag of loan, and nobody wants that. Nobody. Especially if your parents have are, I would say, if your parents are not well off in that sense, like my parents were a teacher, there's no way I would have taken a 60 lakh of a loan and expect them to pay, that sort of a thing. So if you can talk about that whole process, as I said, think of, you land here, what you face, and I think that's a good lesson for Shweta also, that she's going to be here pretty soon, so it will help her probably. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So the thing is, yes, loans are there, but what you need to assess properly before you go is the return on investment. How much do you believe in yourself that even if somehow that doesn't work out, you need to have a plan as to what you're going to do next, and make sure that is what makes you happy and not overly stressed or anxious, because MS is hard. It's like mini PhD in a pressure cooker if you're doing research, to be honest. And that's what they told us when we went to our orientation. They told us that this is going to be like a short-term PhD, and you guys are not getting any time to breathe because you have to do your courses. And I think the most important thing that I wish someone had told me, it's a thing that we have a tendency to do things on our own because we believe that the onus is on us, and and we are coming to this country alone, but that's not the case. I think the thing that helped me most was working with other people, because like I said, grad school or MS is hard because you have to do research, you have to do your courses. And with that, I personally had a teaching assistantship, so I had to do that as well. And I actually, for a while, because I was like, I just have 2 years, so why not go for it? So I applied for a research assistantship as well. So it was crazy for me. But the thing is, you should have an idea about what you want to do in those 2 years, because it goes by really fast. And sometimes you can get caught up in it and forget why you were there. And because there's a lot of choices and things to choose from, so it's very easy for that to happen. So I think having a good plan of what you're going to do, asking for help whenever needed, because generally either the graduate program coordinator or even your mentor or just your peers, sometimes it just helps a lot just to talk about one particular problem, that this is where I'm facing a block, what should I do, instead of just trying to go over it again and again and see what's going wrong. At least when I was in CMU, that really helped me a lot. And initially I was not very open to that idea, because sometimes we think is this plagiarism, is this not? But the truth is, when the professor starts off the class, they just tell you very clearly that this is plagiarism, but this is not. And generally it does include group discussions and things like that. And particularly as a female student, sometime I had one of my flatmates, she was in the robotics department, and over there were a lot of people who were of the opposite gender or opposite sex, and there were very few females. And but that's the thing, you have to accept it that these people are my peers and move on, instead of thinking about that maybe I'm not meant to be, maybe this is not for me. And it's very easy for that to happen. So I think the best way to go about it is talk with someone. There are resources. Think about what you want to do. That's very important. And coming to the part where you asked about the loan and everything, I know that that's a big deal. In fact, I myself had to take a loan because in general, MS is really expensive over here. But the whole thing is, it's like a game of trade-off. So you can come here, spend, and think it as an investment. Or if you are a really no risk taker, obviously it's your choice. And you can, maybe work for a couple of years, have some money to fall back on, and then come here. And then eventually, if it does not work out due to any reason, there can be any number of reasons. It's just more calming to the nerves. I actually came right after my undergrad. So yes, I did have a whole, I'm not proud of saying this, but in my final semester, I had this crazy freak out. What is going to happen? What if I don't get a job? But you just have to strive through. Eventually, if you keep learning from your mistakes, if it doesn't work, it somehow works out. And hopefully you won't be too unhappy about it.
I'm saying like, but for someone graduated and not having a job with a loan is a scary thing, right?
It is very scary, and that kept me up nights thinking, what will I do if that happens?
Right.
So
and especially with COVID, this thought is very real.
It is.
Right.
And sometimes it's not something you can talk to someone about, maybe back in India, because they'll be like, oh, you'll get it. But it doesn't work like that.
Right. No, I agree. So Shweta, one for you now.
Oh, you are not audible. You muted yourself.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was saying, what was your criteria of selecting a universities? If you can talk about it, like how did you went through? Okay, A, B, C, D. One is ranking, which is pretty simple, right? You go after, like, you start from Harvard and you go to CMU and then you go all the way to Texas and all that, right? So that's one way. But is there any other thought process that was in your mind?
Okay, so one way is definitely one of the criteria is ranking. After the next criteria, I would say, is look at your department specifically, the kind of lab, the kind of facilities that the university has, because you may be just looking at, say, mechanical engineering, but if you're going for maybe something like additive manufacturing or something, more specific, the university should have those facilities and those kind of labs. So one criteria is definitely looking at your department, the kind of labs and facilities they have. Then probably you could also look at a few criteria, as in regarding the scores, the GRE scores and those kind of things. Every university will mention what's the average score or the least score that they have accepted. So you should look at that too. And after that, you should shortlist professors also. So one thing is, I would suggest, is not to choose a university where there's just like
and
one
also,
professor.
Can you tell me the timeline when you are in first year to fourth year? What time you say, okay, I want to go for higher studies, then you start applying, thinking, preparing, what time is the best time to prepare yourself versus giving the GRE, then applying, just timeline if you can walk.
Okay, so you should make up your mind at least max by second year, because I feel that the entire process of applying for higher studies and that for going for placements are like totally different. So if you want to give your 100% for applications and for higher studies, and you should make up your mind early on, at least by second year, the end of second year. So regarding the exams, like that's basically the first step, the GRE and the TOEFL exams. So I gave that in my sixth semester, 2019, sixth semester. And I think that is a pretty good time, because we know the GRE is like a validity for 5 years and TOEFL for two years. So you can do self-study or you can take those 6 months courses. So I would suggest that, like your fifth semester, you can dedicate to studying for the exams. And by the sixth semester, you should give both your GRE and TOEFL. I would recommend to give both like together with just a small time gap in between, not to give too much of a gap, or you'll have to prepare all over again. And once that is done, you should immediately start shortlisting the universities. So generally what I followed was to categorize universities into safe, ambitious, and moderate universities. And generally we choose around 10 universities because there's an application fee as well. At the time when you're shortlisting universities, people generally tend to overlook that. But there are some expensive ones, like I think UCLA, which had like an application fee of almost like $90 or something. And there are some cheaper ones like $30. So you should smartly choose your universities, because at the end, you're just going to attend one. So also there should, every university that you choose should be such that if that's the only university getting admitted, you should still be happy to go there. Every university should have something which attracts you, which makes you want to go there. So yeah, so the safe, moderate, and the ambitious universities, you can divide them to based on definitely the ranking, the labs and facilities, and also choose the professors. Have some prospective professors you'd like to work under. And I would suggest not to go to a university or a college which just has one professor specifically working in your field. You should have options, because things may not work out after going there. You may not be comfortable with that professor, or there may be some other issue. So if you have to change, then there should be options available. It shouldn't be that there's just one professor and no options for you to choose from. So that's one thing. So you can look at the H index of the professors, the kind of PhD students who have graduated from, under that prof. And another very important thing is you should actually speak to or talk to your seniors, others who have, gotten admit from that school, because things like ranking, professors, they're all things that you can just see and you can formulate an idea of your own. But talking to seniors will actually give you a more realistic approach. Like you may feel a particular university is beyond your reach, or it's too ambitious, but maybe talking to people, you'll realize that those who have similar profiles like you, or maybe even like weaker profiles, have gotten. So that's another criteria I used. And yeah, so these were basically the ways I ranked my universities. And a very important thing is to keep an eye on the deadlines, like when the application is opening and when the deadline is. And yeah.
So one question for both of you. There are students that I speak most of the time, they talk about going to Europe. For you guys, why not Europe? Why US? Any specific reasons?
Okay, so the main reason for me, for me, the main reason was actually US is the one which offers direct PhD. I mean, it's very common. Almost all the universities offer that. I did try for Canada and Europe as well, but most of them just offered MS. And it's only after master's that you can go for a PhD. And in Europe, I felt, even if you look at external scholarships, they are very limited to students of the EU, European Union. You cannot apply, like if you're an Indian or, if you're not from EU. So scholarship wise, I felt US was a more feasible option. And even among the opportunities of a direct PhD for a student with only bachelor's, US was more lucrative in that sense. Yeah.
For me, the reason pretty much like I mentioned, so I did have a conversation with a couple of professors, because for me, the number one choice of selecting any program would be doing research with like one particular professor who does something that I care about. And so for me, that is the reason I chose this particular school. Otherwise, I kind of applied in a couple of places, some places in Europe, some in Canada. And so for me, it was not really the place, but the professor. And also, I do have some friends and family here. So that definitely factored into my choice.
But do you think, like in general, I'm asking you, especially from Shweta, I mean, a lot of time people talk about the political unrest and scenarios and how uncomfortable US has become and all that. I don't know how it is back there in India, what the thought process among a student is, but definitely they talk about difficulty in visa, and then and especially finding a job and getting a visa is getting difficult and all that. Does that play a role among like what the students think about, like the rumor between students? How that you have seen changed, and when you were in first year versus fourth year, is there any change, or people still wants to come to US for probably many other reasons?
Okay, so like speaking of a general trend, yes, people are, I feel, preferring Europe and maybe Canada over US right now because of the political scenario. I do think it has changed, but I think that would actually affect, I feel personally, it would mostly affect a master's student more than a doctoral student. That's what I felt. And a few seniors who are pursuing their doctorate right now, and one has even graduated. So that's what he told me too, that, you know, it should be like a major criteria for someone who is planning to pursue a master's, who will have a loan that too to repay. So getting a job is like very crucial for them, and you know, they need to be able to repay the loan as well. But yes, I have seen among my friends too that there are many people who prefer Europe and Canada right now over US. Yeah.
Yeah, get a question. One question for you. I just came to my mind. So you did your master's with thesis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it was a waste of time versus just get a master's, get a job? And why was important? I mean, you can say personally it is important for me. That's a personal choice, but I'm talking about in general. Like, why do a master's with thesis when you are not, don't have any benefit out of it as compared to PhD?
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. This is actually a very good one. Oftentimes, us students who do a
what I'm saying, like, master's to me is has to be quick. You can get, you want to do more internship versus more thesis. You know what I mean? And get a job and get out. That's what I personally feel. I mean, I did my thesis too. That's the reason I'm asking. Like, now I look back, I'm saying, I don't know whether I should have done it, but you know, that's my choice. But I'm not talking about personal preference. I'm talking about in general, what you doesn't look like masters with no thesis. Like I know I've spoken to students at Cornell. They have 1 year program. Out, done, get a job, right? So why not that?
Yeah. So in undergrad, which is not that research based, we have an opportunity to go through a lot of classes very fast. And you generally don't learn in depth. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do masters was to get a job in research and development. So you need to have a certain amount of depth and experience in one particular area. And I felt like research is a great way for you to kind of explore that area. Not only does it like make you proficient in the thing that you want to do or you want to apply for, but also the thing that it allows for you to do is, do I really want to do this? Instead of like maybe, yes, PhD is funded, but it's like a huge commitment also. So more than that, so masters with research kind of gives you an opportunity, like if that's something you want to do. Like if I was interested in computer science, I feel like, I guess a master's with a thesis wouldn't be personally important for me, because I probably don't want to get into, say, the nitty-gritties of like parallel programming or something like that. But because I wanted to get into the field of imaging and computer vision or something like that, I was kind of interested to work in the more research and development side of things. And one important thing was, during my interviews, I have been asked a couple of times that whether my master's was a thesis-based one, because they did prefer it over the non-thesis based one, because their whole idea is, especially for students coming right out of undergrad, it does give you a certain bouncing off platform as opposed to the one with no thesis or no research. So that has definitely been helpful.
Okay. So I think we are closing to the point where probably you want to ask some questions from me, but I would ask you definitely, the reason I ask these sort of questions from you guys is, for me, I really want to understand what students are thinking right now, because I'm at a place where I not only talk to students, but we sometimes recruit a lot of students too. So it's very important for me, like what the thought process is. And I'm glad to know that still there's a belly enough, the fire in your belly. That's, I think, is more important, that you guys want to do something and make out of it. CMU is a very good university, no doubt in my mind. I personally have friends who have graduated from there. One of my best friend, so I graduated from Maryland, and one of my best friend, actually, he was at CMU, so I used to go there, spend a lot of times at Forbes Avenue. And Pittsburgh, where I live, Pittsburgh is not very far away. I live in Cleveland, so it's like 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
So
2-hour drive, yeah.
So I go there very often. Actually, just right after you, I have a meeting with a professor at mechanical engineering. We have a project with them. So we are working on some really good and cool projects with NASA with them. So I just want to walk you around ask you about this process. Like if you have to give one message to students, both of you, especially, the reason, one of the question I have, which is very difficult question to answer. There is a big talk about diversity and female inclusion and include people and all that nowadays, which is, I think, is very important. But have you guys, when you are here in US, have you guys gone through any hardship as your gender, where you said we felt out, especially Ankita, you felt that like you have to work a little bit much harder than other gender, or you hear it but you have not seen it?
So the thing is, this is a very informal conversation that I've had with my female friends. I'm not saying it's scientifically proved or it's a thing,
right?
But we have a tendency to, like go harder on ourselves as opposed to our male counterparts. That is something that we have discussed about. Like,
I mean, here's the other thing is that I have to work. Right. But what I'm saying, like, I have to work harder as compared to my male counterpart too, because I think I'm an outsider. So it can be in any domain, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
what I'm talking about, like, have you felt some sort of and even actually, I don't know. I mean, I came back from India 15 years back, but I am assuming that there are pockets which are different, but in general, the feeling has to be different, right? Or no?
I won't say maybe as much, but definitely I can tell you about one incident. That is, we used to stay like till 4 a.m. in the night, probably studying in the libraries. And probably most of us who would be there with us are males.
Okay.
And
in here or in India?
Over in CMU.
Okay.
So the reason we probably wouldn't go back, even though we felt a little uncomfortable about it, is because they are here. So I should be here. I shouldn't be just going back. That wouldn't be fair. And that is something that we thought, which we probably didn't think was something going on in their head.
Right.
So, but besides that, everything is fairly kind of well distributed. They have a nice community of like everyone is there. So it's pretty good.
Okay. So I will let you guys ask any questions for me if you guys have or anything. Ishweta, do you know which professor you will be working with?
Yeah, I'll be working with Professor Rija Jain.
Okay.
From mechanical, as well as Professor Albert Presto. He's from environmental. Yeah.
Okay. So I know Professor Martin DeBoer. There's a female professor there. What's her name? She just joined it as assistant professor. Forgot her name. Hang on. So I know few professors that I work with. The professor that I have a project with is Martin and Professor Brian Webler. He's from more on material science, but he has appointment there too. But Shweta Nara, she's Professor Nara. She just joined actually from she was a PhD student at CMU, but then she joined as a RPI, I think, or somewhere else, and then this year she joined back as an assistant professor at CMU. And then there's a very amazing professor there, very great professor, greatest of the greatest, Anthony Rowlett. If you happen to work on additive, he's the guy to work with. Okay. Yeah, I think Professor Nara was his student, but he's amazing, really good guy. Yeah, so you're coming at a good place, I think, and good luck, Ankita, for your job.
Thank you.
And I'm pretty sure you will have fun. I would definitely, one thing I would advise you, if you want to keep this track, I would say 2 years down the road or something, think about an MBA. That would help a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But as I said, both of you, good luck, and thanks for talking. And keep in touch.
Yeah.
And Shweta, if you come by, just drop an email so I may come to CMU see you. Okay.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
See you. Bye.
Bye.